Hello guys, and welcome back to another video in our channel. And today we have a lot to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about some in-depth tactical intricacies we saw in the Manchester United Chelsea game. We're also going to look at the weekend progress and the run-in, especially for the top three positions, and that is the Champions League position. So at the moment, two teams have qualified for the Champions League. Liverpool by winning the Premier League and being the first in the table. Arsenal, who won yesterday against Newcastle, and you can see now almost 6 teams. The difference between number 3 and number 7 is just a mere 1 point, and that is very, very crucial. Now, let me try to look at these points of each team. Now, Arsenal have 71 points, Newcastle have 66 points, Chelsea have 66 points, Aston Villa has 66 points, Manchester City has 65 points with a game in hand, and Nottingham Forest have 65 points. And what you notice is that Manchester City have not yet played and they lost the FA Cup final, but it's always good to have the points in the bag, and Manchester City also have the ability to keep themselves in a strong position with a win over Bournemouth midweek. Now, one thing we saw about in Chelsea's Manchester United game is one weakness that you have seen teams exploiting against Chelsea. And this weakness, I have to talk about it. And one thing we know is that Chelsea like to defend in a 4-4-2 structure without the ball, and they look to try and close the central areas as well as the wide areas. But this has created a problem for Chelsea. And how so? Teams have decided to try and overload their front three closer to Chelsea while having their attacking midfielders occupying the half space, narrowing and forcing Chelsea fullbacks to come inside. This has opened up the wide areas where we have seen teams push their wingbacks high up, and pushing their wingbacks high up has created that overload against Chelsea. Manchester United and Newcastle did this effectively, and Manchester United had a goal disallowed because of this situation. The problem is that when Chelsea are found in this position, the fullbacks are unable to come out so that they cannot leave gaps in the center, allowing the wingbacks and the wingers to attempt crosses from those wide positions, especially targeting the far post. And this has resulted in Chelsea conceding goals, as the goal from Harry Maguire as well as the goal by Tonali. Now, the Chelsea-Manchester United game had a lot of intricacies, and I'm still going to touch on some things that I did not talk about in that game in this video. But now I will also touch on the run-in, looking at also the probability of the other teams and looking at how can the fixtures go and what do we expect in the coming days. Now, before we even start this analysis, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more video like this, and let us proceed. Now, one thing you notice that is that the Premier League is very competitive. The Premier League will have up to close to 8 places in European competitions. Even it could go up to 10 depending on the results on the final day. And let's try and look into this. Now, one thing we notice is that Nottingham Forest managed to win 1-2. And what I can say about this game is that West Ham really gifted Nottingham Forest the first goal. The first goal was needless and pointless. And this game is somehow like West Ham gave it to Nottingham Forest, because you don't make that silly pass in the first game, this game ends in a draw. And Nottingham Forest, no matter what they do, they don't even look to qualify for the Champions League. And that would have made it easy for Chelsea. Arsenal and Newcastle, I did expect Arsenal to win, and I said it. Declan Rice, thunderbolt strike, and again, I never expected Arsenal to be dragged into this top 4 race. They were way ahead, and probably if Chelsea had won the Brentford and the Ipswich game, we would have already had 70 points, and we would have already wrapped up the top 4 race, and we would be comfortable going into the final days. Chelsea, on the other hand, won 1-0 against Manchester United, courtesy of a very, very goal from Cucurella, while Aston Villa won against Spurs. But now Aston Villa have to travel to Manchester United, and the Aston Villa game actually motivated Chelsea players in the second half. You saw them coming together and saying, we need to win, we need to get that goal now, we need to push ourselves. And let's look at the running. The run-in, we also have the predictions. We still see again that Newcastle and Manchester City are the ones who are predicted to finish above, because Manchester City have that game in hand. They have Bournemouth at home. And if Manchester City play their game, they are more likely to get a result on both games. And if they win against Bournemouth, now they have 68 points. They'll just need a draw on the final game to qualify for the Champions League, unlike teams like Chelsea, Villa, and Nottingham Forest. Newcastle have their game at home playing against Everton, who have nothing to play for. And Newcastle are very, very difficult to deal with at home. And a lot of people are tipping them to get the much needed result at home at St. James's Park over Everton, though Everton is not quite an easy team per se. Chelsea have Nottingham Forest, who will also be looking to try and win that game and try to have their chances for the Champions League increasing. Aston Villa are going away to Manchester United. Manchester United have been very horrible, but again, I expect that to be a very tough game for Aston Villa, because Manchester United will be trying to impress their fans, trying to end the season on a high, especially when they are at Old Trafford. So we are going to expect that to be a tough game. But there is one thing that I want to talk about, and I was supposed to talk about, and it was one weakness that I identified in Chelsea's system, especially in their game against Manchester United this weekend. And we saw something that really created, left us with a lot of questions. And this is, you see, you notice one thing about Chelsea is that Chelsea like to operate a high line when they are looking to defend crosses. Now, this high line is very crucial. And if you have a centre back or a defender who's not in line with the high line, you see, when the ball is about to be played, Chelsea's defense line moves up to play players offside, then it moves down. But we have seen players like Chalobah and Colwell failing in this, but Tosin Adarabioyo managed this perfectly. You see the 4-4-2 structure that I was telling you. When an opponent decides to build with a back three, they automatically outnumbers Chelsea front two, making one winger to push forward to press a centre back. And this is what leaves the other fullback isolated, and that's what opponents like to do. You see, when a winger is drawn to press Chelsea's centre back, what happens is that a wing back or a winger who's staying wide hugs the touchline while the inside forward moves into that half space. This makes the fullback be caught into two, whether to cover the player in the wide area or the player in the half space. Majority of the times, the fullbacks will prefer covering the player in the half space. Now, when they move to cover the player in the half space, what happens is that there is acres of space left on the other side, and now the player with acres of space in the wide areas will now look to try and shift across to play a cross-field pass, especially targeting the far post area. We've seen Chelsea even concede against Aston Villa through these circumstances, and this has really created problems for Chelsea, who are looking to try and defend these kinds of goals. What is very important in this area is that either the centre backs win the ball aerially and clear it, or the entire defense line drops deep, plays an offside trap against players who are looking to make runs, so that even if those players attempt a shot on goal or even score a goal, that goal is automatically ruled as offside. But offside needs constant training. It's not something that is very easy. And when the offside trap is broken is when you find Chelsea in this kind of situation where they look to fail in actually scoring. But Chelsea themselves have also found themselves in this position and situation, and they have failed to capitalize. That has put them in a very difficult situation, even for them to try and change anything. Now, my weekly update is that yes, the goal by Marc Cucurella has been very crucial for Chelsea. And Chelsea really needed that clean sheet. But Chelsea also need another clean sheet in the final game of the season. It's going to be the toughest game that Chelsea are going to play. The pressure is going to be there. And when the pressure is going to be there, it will need a lot of character from these Chelsea players. The character that they will need to play with in that final game. Now, before I even proceed, I have to share something. Chelsea, in their last game against Manchester United, scored a very fabulous goal, and that goal showed everything that encompasses what we call the Enzo Maresca way, the Enzo Maresca possession-based football way. And what is that? every player in that Chelsea 11 touched the ball before Chelsea scored. And here is how the goal was scored by Chelsea.